Hi, I'm Christy with Katie. I'm here at the International AIDS Conference in Montreal AIDS 2022. The greater involvement of people living with HIV, or GIPA, is supposed to ensure that the people most affected by HIV are at the helm of our response. But in the conference's Global Village, we saw a performance where we heard from African, Caribbean, and Black women living with HIV about some of the challenges working in the HIV sector. I sat down with researcher Laurie Chambers, who helped to curate the performance, to learn more.
Hi, I'm Laurie Chambers. I am a co-investigator and co-writer of Because She Cares, a community-based art space project. My project, Because She Cares, it basically was exploring this notion of caring work and what that means for African, Caribbean, and Black women who live with HIV, but also work in the sector. The reason why I kind of wanted to explore it is I've worked in the field for many years, frontline as a social worker, also as a researcher, mainly in community-based research. But I often heard women I work with saying how they did this work because they care. And I wanted to explore that a little deeper. So it started out as a project where I interviewed 10 African immigrant women about their experiences. And this notion of caring work that they talked about didn't also just refer to this notion of caring labor, doing work that performs some form of sustenance to other people, but also this work as a labor of love and also laborious in terms of doing care for other people. And it's particularly for women living with HIV, the issues of their health and well-being while doing the work. Couple things. Number one, I know that this has been talked about with a lot of organizations, how to ensure that all people living with HIV who work in the sector have full benefits. And for African, Caribbean, Black women, that's not just benefits for themselves, it's also benefits for their family. So how can we ensure we have fulsome benefits in terms of health benefits, time off, sick leave that doesn't make a person feel that they have to count the days of their sick leave. So how can we do that as a sector? Another thing that's come up that really resonated is this issue of tokenism. People feeling that they're only being hired for their status and not for other things they bring to the work. How can we recognize the wisdom and past experiences people bring to their work? Also, one thing that's been really coming out when we've been talking to people is progression in the workplace. People who are still doing the same frontline work, even though they've been doing that work for years. How can we find a way to see HIV-related work as a way to progress up and sometimes out of the sector? So how can we support women in that as well? Also, credentialism is a huge issue in general for immigrants, racialized immigrants, but even more so for African, Caribbean, and Black women who are living with HIV. Some of them come to the work in mid-career. So how can we recognize the forms of activism they did back home or the forms of professional work they did, and they might not be doing it in the same way in the sector, but that those skills are still viable? How can we recognize those credentials in their work as well? I was lucky I did narrative research, meaning when I gathered the stories of the women, it was in long form, meaning I asked one question and I let them guide it. And in their talking about their experience, it actually became, this storytelling was very poetic. So it was quite easy for me to translate their words into poetry. And then when I shared it with the women I interviewed, they said, why can't you share it that way? So spoken word poetry came both from listening to the women and also through collaborating with the original women I interviewed. And in mobilizing it, what I've noticed is emotion is a great conduit to thinking and to critical and deep reflection. It's one thing to read research, we all do it, and write your notes, but it's another thing to watch research. And the beauty about poetry and spoken word, especially when it's people who've worked in the sector, African, Caribbean, and Black women, some of whom living with HIV performing it, it gauges emotion, anger, sadness, fear, happiness, joy. It engages emotions in a way that gets people to kind of look at the work differently. So we've started using these performances as a call to action to people in power. We're starting right now with EDs. And one thing we're saying to EDs is, now that you've seen now they've seen the performance, are you going to stop being just a performative ally and start being a transformative co-conspirator? And what we mean by that is, it's great that you watch the play, watch us doing spoken word or films. It's great that you feel. And it's great that it really saddens you and makes you want to do something. Do it. So what I would like to do using Katie is, if you watch this, watch the films. Go to the Katie event in October, or ask us to do a play at your organization. And after we do it, don't just clap and everything. Take up the call. How are these words going to help you rethink the way you do caring work in your organization? And I'll leave it at that.